Hi, I'm James E., and I'm ready to roar today. We have to speak up and speak out to preserve our democracy. Things are not going the way I expected them to go, or rather, I should say they're going exactly the way I expected they would go. And I have a couple of guests here. Rick Rosner. Rick, hello. Are you
Hey,
ready to roar today about something that's
yeah, yeah.
okay? Donald, you ready to roar? You're a troublemaker.
Ah,
All right. Okay. So, the main thing that I think Rick pointed out earlier when before we got online that the job numbers came out, and Rick, you saw them, and what
yeah.
did you think?
So they came in 100,000 below expectation at minus 23,000. They also
Ouch.
lowered the previous 2 months by more than 100,000. So that means in the past 15 months, the U.S. has added one third of a million jobs, which is about 88% less than average over the past 15 years, not counting the terrible COVID year of 2020.
Right.
So Trump remains the worst jobs president since Herbert Hoover,
Ooh.
who left the presidency in 1933.
Yeah, that was kind of around the Great Depression, wasn't it?
He started the Great Depression with tariffs. Things were bad, and then they added tariffs, and that dumped us into a depression. Trump, an idiot, continues to rely on tariffs, which are a tax on consumers. He's
Absolutely.
refunded corporations $100 billion in tariffs after they were ruled illegal. Corporations are not giving it back to consumers.
So they're not
And,
lowering the
and
price.
he's got another set of tariffs. He's reimposed tariffs using a different rationale. These will also be found illegal. So no benefit to the country with via revenue because that revenue will have to be returned. No benefit to individual people, only a benefit to corporations.
Right. So the wealthy are getting wealthier, and everybody else is paying more
You know,
for
Apple
everything.
got $2.2 billion back in
Yeah.
rebates for the tariffs they charged consumers. Now, Apple knows who bought their products. They could refund consumers. They will not.
Absolutely not. Thank you for that, Rick. That's one of the things that I roar about a lot. The tariff insanity, and it's continuing. But as you say, but there's a lag time between when Trump imposes these things and they're found to be illegal. And so what this causes is pain and suffering for the average person in the United States. So there's a disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street. Well, Wall Street continues to look good and that everything is
Yeah, but hiring is now decoupled from stock prices.
right,
It used to be that the better a company did, the more people it hired.
right. That was the
Now,
old rationale.
the more companies use AI, the more people they can fire and replace with AI. And so we're seeing declining jobs,
Right.
declining participation in the labor force. The unemployment rate actually dropped another tenth to 4.1% because we have the lowest labor force that is people who are trying to get a job.
Seeking jobs, right.
Right, the lowest I believe in history at 61%, which means 39% of working age Americans aren't even looking.
They're
It,
giving up hope.
yeah,
It,
so, this is day 98 or 99 of gas national average above $4 a gallon under Trump. Under Biden, in a full 4 years under Biden, there were about 154 days of gas over $4. Now, Trump's only like 19 months into his presidency, so he's got a long time to go to beat Biden's record. The Republicans have nothing to run on. They've done jack shit for Americans. Um, and which means for the next 88 days until the midterms, we're just going to hear distracting bullshit from the Republicans. Socialism, communism,
Transgender athletes.
right,
yes,
trans people. When Republicans talk
it's an
about
outrage.
trans, check your wallet because they are picking your pocket while you're distracted by trivial bullshit.
Oh man, if I shake hands with a Republican, I count my fingers afterwards.
Well, Donald, you must have something to roar about today. Do you have
Well,
one particular
I will
roar?
say I want to say one thing that's actually kind of good that gives a little bit of hope is that there is still some pulse in our justice system because the DOJ has been handing out trying to indict people, at the ridiculous rate. And
Trump is
interestingly
weaponized.
enough, criminal grand juries, fail to indict 1 in 1,200 times. 1 in 1,200 times. It's just perfunctory. The district attorney says they're a bad guy. They put it to the grand jury. The grand jury agrees. I mean, it's just this cycle.
There's no proof to speak of. There's just the possibility that the person might be guilty at trial.
Right. Yeah. That's just a question of should they go on trial or not.
Right.
And so, but grand juries have been dismissing these indictments that the DOJ is going like crazy. And I heard there's this wonderful person, see if I can remember her name. It'll come back to me in a second, but she's the former pardon attorney for the US government, for the Department of Justice. And they fired her, of course, but now she has a YouTube and TikTok channel where she gets on all the time and she talks. And she was saying, and her comment was, it's more likely that you're going to get hit by lightning than you are to have a grand jury fail to indict. And she says in her whole career, she'd only seen it like a handful of times, like probably less than you could count on one hand. And they're just kicking them out over and over and over now. So at least, and she says, well, that shows that the justice system still has a pulse. So let's be glad about that one thing. But
yes, I think that.
I go to the grocery store, and if I buy 3 things, and if I get out of there for less than $100, I'm like, oh boy, this is great. I mean, that's changed quite a bit in just the last year.
Yes. And to your first point, there is a pulse in the justice system, but the DOJ has been weaponized. And so what you're talking about is grand juries dismissing these spurious accusations, which are just meant to intimidate and scare people, including New York Times journalists for doing their job and that sort of thing. So that is something that needs a lot of roaring. The other thing that you mentioned is the price. And usually, like, you go back to James Carville telling Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. And I think people paying more at the gas pump, paying more when they go to get the groceries, that's irritating people around the country. This isn't a state by state, red state, blue state thing. Everybody's.
I agree. I think that's going to be one of the big absolute things that's going to kill the Republicans. And I mean, I even think a lot of MAGA are like going.
We'll see if any of this soaks in, because Trump's approval, he'll go into the midterms with the second lowest approval of any president in 80 years since polling began. But he's still at 38%. Nearly 2 in 5 people polled think he's doing okay. And from my experience on social media, after 10 years of Trump, I think a lot of MAGAs, now if you look, they have done studies on the percent of MAGAs who have deluded beliefs. And depending on what thing you're talking about, vaccines or the 2020 election was stolen, the percentage holding deluded beliefs can be between 25 and 90%. But that doesn't mean they're mentally ill. You can believe bullshit without being crazy because all your friends believe bullshit. On the other hand, I think that after 10 years of Trump and after 50 years of the Republicans herding idiots and lunatics, I believe that among MAGAs, there is a ton of mental illness. Well, maybe up to 8 to 10% of MAGAs are deluded to the point where they're actually insane.
I just want to throw in that because I've read quite a few papers on psychological and even neurological differences between conservatives and not conservatives. I wouldn't necessarily call them liberals, but I mean, a liberal in the United States would be considered far right in France, for instance. But conservatives have a bigger amygdala and smaller frontal. They have poorer judgment and a larger response to fear emotions, especially fear. And they it's just their brains are different. They're wired different. And for an instance, if you show two faces and one of them is disgusting, they look at the disgusting one instead of the pleasant one. They look around them and they just see, they're just afraid of everything. And so Trump plays on that by finding boogie people, immigrants, communists, anything that they can come up with. I don't know how well this communist thing is going to actually work, though. I mean,
yeah. I got to say, I mean, there are lunatics on both sides, but the number of percent of lunatics, I think, is much higher among MAGAs.
Well, and
I agree. I wouldn't necessarily call them crazy because, we all live in different worlds based on the meaning that we get of things from the people around us. Because something like Trump, really, he's an abstraction. I mean, obviously, there's a guy there somewhere, but we just see how he presents himself and how he's presented in the news, and how the people around us think about him. And so he's really imaginary. And so, yeah, the people. It's just what you said, Rick. That the people around us, we test it. We say, well, he's this, and if they don't agree with us, they say, no, he's really this, and you go along with the crowd, and you just kind of, it gradually trains you, and it's real. Like if I said the IRS is not real, you'd think that was ridiculous. But where is the IRS? Is it the buildings, the laws, the people? The IRS is an abstraction, but even though it's not concrete, we can't touch it or see it. Everyone agrees it's real, and so that reality is created by our social environment.
So I fairly regularly interact with a woman who always tweets back at me that I'm a fool and deluded in my beliefs, and this woman is a flat earther. She actively and actually believes, and there are now thousands of flat earthers on X that believe that there's been a conspiracy for thousands of years to hide that we live on a disc rather than a globe. You can't believe that, I believe, without having a high likelihood that you're mentally disturbed.
Well, I do believe that it's interesting. The amygdala is at the base of the skull. No,
it's kind of in the middle. Yeah, well, it's in the limbic system, though. It's the animal part of us. Yeah,
it's the animal part of us, and it does react to fear, freeze, flight, fight, those types of responses. And Trump has been, and the Republican Party in general, has been great at playing to the fear, and we're trying to operate, and we're trying to move people's consciousness to the frontal lobes where there's rational thought, and this has been a very uphill battle. Part of it has been the Democrats' messaging, or lack thereof. Getting people to pull behind certain ideas is one effective way to deal with fear. But the other aspect that we're talking about, the people that have believe in the flat Earth, for example, these types of things that have been disproven, and any person using their frontal lobes knows that the Earth is not flat. But you cannot talk to them about it. You cannot reason with them. because they're coming from a different part of their brain.
So when it comes to the election, in less than 13 weeks, America has a chance to take the most effective action it could take over the past 2 years. We've kind of been stymied by Republicans controlling all arms of government. And can we erode enough of Trump's support to at least take the House, maybe take the Senate? And if we get more control in Congress, will that do anything? Trump is not changing course. He wants the reflecting pool guy whose charges were Jeanine Pirro declined to take him to trial.
Right.
Now he's pissed at her because she didn't want to have a humiliation. Like
right.
When,
a judge scolding her for bringing a silly case.
Right. Yeah. She's a total, Trump supporter and has been in the tank on TV for 20 years, pushing a lot of bullshit. But she saw that the case wouldn't hold, but Trump refuses to believe it, continues to blame the state of the reflecting pool on vandalism. And it's a trivial issue. But every day, Trump says crazy crap, and he's only going to get crazier in the 12 and a half weeks left until the election. Will that lose him any more support?
I think that prediction is very valid. It's nothing but a sense that we all seem to share that he's going to get crazier.
I'm wondering, I'm kind of hopeful that, like, the intersection of these things, I think that even MAGA, maybe in some ways, especially MAGA, he's losing a lot of his influencers. They're bailing on him because he promised no new wars, and then he started a war, and so everybody's saying, well, why? And he doesn't have a reason. And so he just babbles, and anybody that seriously wanted a reason, that listened to him to find the reason, isn't going to find it because he has absolutely no idea what he's doing. Plus, he gave up. I mean, he said, what we really did is we brokered a deal between Oman and Iran. We're great. We're these great peacekeepers. The deal is now that they turned the Straits of Hormuz into a toll booth.
Yeah.
I mean, Iran didn't have very good sources of income, but we just handed them a gold mine. I mean,
so
unbelievable.
So a tanker full of oil is worth about $200 million. Iran's going to probably charge 0.5% toll, and that's $1 million a ship. So over a few years, Iran could end up making a couple $1 billion that our action in the Gulf, Trump's action, just gave Iran and Oman the realization that they can actually charge a reasonable to them toll. They were letting all these ships go through that little gap for free, and now they have figured out that they don't have to do that.
Yeah,
which will be debated for a long time. But I wonder if Iran will use that to rebuild the girls' school that we destroyed.
Well, this is too hard for a MAGA.
Sorry,
this would be too hard for a MAGA to understand. But if you looked at the deal that Obama made to prevent them from creating weapons-grade uranium, it was fabulous. And we were starting to get detente with Iran. Like, I had some Iranian friends at the time were saying, you ought to visit Tehran. It's really great. A lot of the stuff you hear about morality police is incredibly overblown. They said they catch you kissing your girlfriend in a car. All they want is a bribe. And he says there's all these underground parties everywhere. People drink and smoke dope and stuff. He says it's nothing like you think. And basically, they love Americans.
Well, that's a little rosy because Iran slaughtered between 40 and 50,000 of its own people internally. Our timing was stupid because
There you
We
go.
waited till after all the most active internal protesters had been killed, and only then did we start the war. If we wanted a chance of tipping over the regime, you do it before they've all been slaughtered.
And if
Well,
you
there's
want
a
allies to
lot of
join you,
countries,
you
even
better
in
before you
Thailand,
start.
beautiful Thailand, if you insult the king, or you could get executed. I mean, but yet I'm sure people, I never hear of that happening. And it's the same with Tehran. If you're just a regular person that's not trying to attack the government, it's no.
Yeah, and there are autocracies, but we were supposed to get out of the business of trying to change the world militarily. This is not, we were supposed to export democratic values, and people would see the value of that. And so these people that were protesting, they're upset with their authoritarian regime, and but Netanyahu was able to convince Trump, no other president, but he was able to convince Trump that regime change was possible. So they assassinated the leader. And the leader was an extremist, but he was pretty calm in terms of pretty cautious. And now the regime has not been changed, but you just put someone in who's maybe more extreme and less cautious. So you've made it more dangerous rather than less dangerous.
Yeah, and the way that it was, that treaty was like 40 countries, I don't remember exactly, but many dozens of countries over the world joined into it. So everybody in Europe and all over the world, everybody agreed, and they had this agreement where they were going to have inspectors everywhere, and this ability for satellites to be able to
try to hide
look at
stuff,
it to make
would.
sure they weren't digging special,
Right.
hole to build it in and all that kind of stuff.
Underground. Yeah.
Incredibly well. It was absolutely great, and it would have helped the Iran. You get more. I mean, I often say the Soviet Union fell because of blue jeans and rock music more than anything else. Because once the barriers, radio and different kinds of things broke down the barriers, everybody in the East part could see what was going on in the West, and they were going, "We want that too." I mean, this is ridiculous.
A Russian grandmaster friend who was able to escape the Soviet Union told me that he didn't know what it was like that other countries until he was allowed to travel internationally because he was such a good player, and then he could see how other countries lived, and it was shocking to him.
Well, Putin controls the news media in his country.
Trump tries to control the media here.
His approval remains, it's the lowest in, I don't know, maybe ever, at 65%, but it's still 65%.
Right.
And I'm sure younger people in Russia are able to finagle some outside information, but a lot of people can't. Right. And they remain bullshitted.
Well, it's the source of the information, which is what we were talking about earlier. We just touched upon it. If these people, and we don't want to insult their intelligence because there's plenty of intelligent MAGA people, but if they have only one source of information or multiple sources that give the same message and they amplify it, and that's what their source of information is, and they have peers who are listening to the same sources of information, then no wonder they share the same opinions and they can reinforce one another. So this is the way it has worked, and it did work because we reelected the guy. After we saw what he did in his first administration, we reelected him. So this is a shame on us. Because
one fun thing, one quick thought.
It's our problem. So we have to vote these bums out. This is the only way to restore the democracy that we were given. We inherited it from people who fought and died for it. And the democracy is not given to us, as Ben Franklin said long ago. It's a republic if we can hold it. And it's right for theirs for the taking, the autocrats.
So one thing we can roar about is telling people, A, to vote, and B, if you vote by mail, vote frickin' early. Because if you might remember, during 2020, it was COVID. The Postal Service, Trump had appointed a postmaster general who was friendly to him, who destroyed a lot of machinery. And I love the post office, but mail service got really bad.
Right.
And he's going to try to do it again. He's got another friendly postmaster general.
Right.
He's tried to scuttle vote by mail in a bunch of states.
Or they will screw it
and
up.
I'm already noticing, sometimes I'll order stuff that goes through the Postal Service, and I'm noticing there's an uptick in packages going to a couple wrong places before they get routed the right way. So do not play it safe with the mail. If
Amen.
you can, drop off your ballot at your polling place or vote in person. Or if you do vote by mail, turn in your ballot a week or 10 days before election day, because the mail is probably going to get screwy again.
As long as it's postmarked, though. I mean, he tried to stop that. And humorously, there's a thing on the California ballot for asking for voter ID, Trump's thing. The Republicans managed to get it on. And I was looking at how much money is being spent on it and how likely it is. And it's like, nobody's even bothering. I had to bring my fucking birth certificate, get my driver's license. They didn't just hand me a driver's license on my word. And now I have the real ID. And in order to get that, I had to bring my passport and a bunch of other stuff. So the mere fact that I have that, and then because of that, they mail me the ballot, means I've already gone through extreme vetting.
Yes.
And
so the people who are pushing for the SAVE Act say that ignore that in order to register to vote, you have to prove who you are. And so, and you prove it once. A lot of people still vote in their local precinct where their ID is you're voting in your neighbor's garage and they've known you for 25 years. The people who run the little polling places are often old ladies who are like 80 years old. They've been in your neighborhood for 40 years. They know who's who. So the idea that voting, the Heritage Foundation, and everybody who's informed knows this, has a voter and fraud database where they have a record of every single instance of voter fraud over the past 30 years. And out of 2 billion total votes cast in the past few decades across America, there have only been about 2,000 instances of false votes cast, which is a rate of 1 in a million, which is not enough to flip any election.
No election was stolen. None was rigged. And the irony that's not lost on me anyways, that Trump is continuously talking about how the first election that he lost to Biden was rigged, and he's still fighting it. He's an obsessive guy. And, even though there's no evidence to support his belief, he still believes it. And the fact is, he's doing everything in his power to rig the next election.
Well, MAGA has... Go ahead.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I was just agreeing. Yeah, that's what it's about.
And but one of the rosier things that I've seen is some of the polling data out of places like Texas, which used to be like the heart of MAGA land. And a lot of these races, either a Democrat is leading or it's kind of very...
Texas loves to tease us. Texas likes to do Lucy with the football.
Yeah.
Where the polls look pretty good. And then there are millions more registered Democrats than Republicans in Texas. But the Republicans turn out.
Well, I think that's what we're talking about. Is I think the MAGA people have losing their support. What that means is they may not turn out as strongly as they have.
I really think that's what happened to us. I mean, like a lot of Democrats couldn't get behind Kamala Harris, and they just didn't turn out, and that really hurt us. And that's happened, a few times. If you have no energy, and I don't think, like I saw that the audience in Las Vegas he had like 20 people.
I know. There's no.
I mean, nobody showed up for him at
July
all.
4th parade party was, he would fire people for covering it, the low attendance. And if you
Yeah, the attendance, it's July. That was just, and he's trying everything with the reflecting pool, but with Jeannie Pereira,
he hired a buddy
like
who got paid no compete contract, and he botched it. He simply
but we're talking about all this stuff, but we're talking about if we're going to roar, we have to roar effectively. And so over the next 12 weeks, we have to bug everybody around us and make the case in simple terms that you should take. It doesn't cost you anything except a little time to fill out a ballot.
Yes.
And have you enjoyed the past year and a half? Do you think Trump has done anything for you? And if not, then maybe you give the other side a chance.
I think that's, throw the bumps out is what I say. But, I do think that, it has to be short and sweet. And you do want to, if not, try to influence people to vote your way, to vote in general. It's a civic duty. And there's so few civic duties put on the United States citizen.
voting and jury duty.
Yeah, jury duty is another.
That's it.
And, I show up for jury duty when I'm called. And
I love it.
I was going to say, I don't necessarily love it, but Donald loves it.
I just spent a year on the civil grand jury of Santa Cruz. And some of our reports, the way the civil grand jury works is that you get a bunch of people that have volunteered, you put them in a room together, and then you say, okay, what are we going to investigate this year? And somebody says, oh, I think we should investigate this. Anybody want to help me? And some other people, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good thing to investigate. It's bottoms up. It's a great, great situation. And I will say, I'm kind of trying to sell it to people. You might want to do it. That I've made fast friends that we get together every couple of weeks, and we probably will for the rest of our lives. It's wonderful. And so, and our reports were front page news.
And my wife tried to join a civil grand jury, and they get more people signing up to do it than they can use, so she didn't get on.
In Santa Cruz County, we have been having trouble getting enough people. And so, like if you're an alternate, it's almost guaranteed that enough people are going to drop out, are going to go from alternate status. We were down to recruit somebody mid-year because if you don't have 12 people voting, you can't do anything.
Okay, so a civil jury says we should investigate this. So you're not doing you're asking for, I guess, who's doing the investigation for you?
Well, no. Once we we agree and get a group together, we have power. We can get any government official and say we want to interview them, and they have to say yes. And then when we make our reports, we tell them, look, you've got to respond to this report by this date, and they have to do it. And so we actually have power. And so, but what's really cool about it is I wound up talking to the top people. If I wanted to talk to the sheriff, I talked to the sheriff. I wanted to talk to the chief. I wanted to talk to a board of supervisors. I talked to that board of supervisors. So I got to.
It sounds like democracy in action.
What?
So
that sounds like democracy in action.
You are the investigators. So somebody decides, we've Santa Cruz County has received like $40 million for road maintenance and repair, yet our roads are all crappy. And so that means the jury would subpoena, I guess, a city comptroller who controls the money, a city engineer who decides where the money goes. And then you'd ask them a bunch of questions like, is this $40 million being spent, and why do the roads still suck? Even
more than that, what we can say is give us your profit, show us the books. And in Santa Cruz County, I don't know if the rail trail has been a big thing. So we investigated the rail trail, and we wound up, one guy in our thing looked at deeds for the rail line going back to the 1800s. And so we knew, we practically knew more about the rail than the Regional Transportation Commission. But of course, if we wanted to, talk to the head of the Regional Transportation Commission, we just asked her. And we could potentially subpoena, but nobody ever refuses us because
That's wonderful.
they don't want to get.
All right, that's my thought for the day, guys. I'm going to wrap the show up, but I want to give you the last opportunity, your last opportunity this week to roar about a specific topic.
Just to make sure everybody around you is going to vote and vote effectively. That is, get their ballot in a way that it can't be fucked with.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't have any friends that don't vote. I don't know a single solitary person. And I will say one thing about the grand jury. It's a California thing. It's been in our Constitution to have citizen oversight of government, and it's been there since 1850. And the only other state that does it copied us, and that's Nevada. But no other state has a civil grand jury.
All right.
So yay, California! And I just put in a flag there because I'm a California
citizens to take advantage of this, because the thing is that nothing's going to change unless you participate in the change. And
right,
this is like what Rick is saying, go out and vote. This is our way of saying.
And if you have the balls for it, talk to Gen Z, because Gen Z has a lower voting rate. And Gen Z is hard to talk to because they're on their phones. But if you can get their attention for half a sec, you can be some old weirdo. They'll tell their friends. Like some old weirdo made me stop looking at TikTok and asked if I was going to vote. And maybe you'll start a discussion among people in their 20s.
That's easy. Just text them.
Text them. Yeah, but they're probably good at deleting text too. Yeah.
Well, all right. Say you're a grandparent. Say, my estate is worth $9 million, and if you want some of that juicy inheritance, go vote.
Yeah, let me see the I voted sticker on your chest. All right, great job, both of you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's always really fun seeing you guys, and and for anybody that's listening to us, I love you.
Oh, thank you, Donald.
I do.
Yeah, I love our indeterminate number. We don't know how many people are watching, but those that are, we love you.
That's all right. On that note, which is a great vibration, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate both of your comments because there's a lot to roar about today, and we have to talk to our friends and the people that are in our sphere of influence them. Thank you very much. Goodbye, Donald, Rick. Goodbye. And sorry, I'm trying to get him going. And the other thing I want to tell you is that if you want to write to us and suggest something that we don't talk about, we won't roar about, tell us what that is. And if you want to write to us and tell us we're roaring about the wrong things or you disagree with us, write to us. info@airu.tv, scrolling across the bottom of your screen now. And we would love to hear from you, and we'll take up a topic that you suggest if you write to us and tell us why you want to roar about that. All right. Well, thank you for watching. And this is the end of the show, and I appreciate you watching.